I want you to indulge me for about half an hour. You're all here. You're not going anywhere, right? So indulge me for half an hour. I want to talk about the philosophy of rebirth and death as it comes to us from all these things, and reincarnation, because I think it's important that we have a little language. Would that be all right? So I love this statement from Carl Sagan, right? The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff, and we are a way for the universe to know itself. Now, this is from the most scientific mind you can imagine, right? And what's he saying? He's saying that when you die, you're reborn as stardust, right? So what are you worried about? The universe is playing games with you all the time to see itself through you in every form you take, right? Isn't that beautiful? We call this panpsychism, and I'll come to it in a little bit, right? So the idea is that what he's talking about, what we see in all the elemental stuff, is that elementally, nature is perpetually recycling, right? Nothing lasts forever. Plants come and go, mushrooms come and go, mosquitoes come and go, humans come and go. It's a continuous recycling and reincarnation going on and rebirth going on. In fact, the whole nature is just one big soup, blob of just stuff happening all the time. And we, with our consciousness, think we're the important one, but we're not really. We're kind of a part of a much bigger game that's going on in nature. That's why the goddess is so important, right? And, we talked about this idea of ancestral karma. We come with luggage, right? Forget, karma of past life, just your parents' genetics, your parents' epigenetics, your parents' history. You're bringing all that cultural baggage with you. You're born into a family, and nobody asks you permission to arrive in that family. They just put you there. Like, how did you end up there in that family? And so then you talk about karma and stuff like that, right? So the first mention of reincarnation is in a book called the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, about 1000 BC, right? This is the first mention they have kind of mentions to it in the Rig Veda, but not really. And the first mention says that just as a caterpillar, when it has come to the end of a blade of grass, reaches out to another blade of grass and draws itself over to it, so the self, Atma, having left this body and not being able to do so without a support, reaches out to another body and draws itself over to it. Ooh, isn't that fascinating, right? They're not saying you go to some airport lounge and then you come back and you choose which body to come back into. They're saying that when the Atma comes to the end of this body, it is seeking another body to go into. It is seeking. That means it is looking to come in again and continue its journey. And then this later becomes the Jiva Atma theory, right? So the concept here that the Rig Veda is talking about, right, is that the Jiva, the living essence of you that's immortal, undergoes a cycle of birth and death with the goal of spiritual learning and growth. The idea of rebirth is closely tied to the concept of karma, which we were talking about, which holds that actions have consequences that carry over from one life to the next. So this is the fundamental thesis of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, right? The three major, and including Sikhism today, of India, all the religions of India, apart from Islam. Islam also has a part of it, but not like this, which is the thesis that we have an essential immortal essence that seems to go from life to life to life, and it has a purpose, which is to go on an adventure of learning, right? And the end of its learning is to return to its source and dissolve back into the singularity of everything, right? So this is called the Bhukti Mukti theory. That means I got to live in the world, participate, play, learn, and then at some point, if I'm fortunate, mukti will come, liberation, right? Back into the source. Now, all the early religions said that it is very difficult to break that cycle in this life. Right? So if you were a Buddhist or you were a Hindu, you waited 7 lives to come back and fix yourself, or 10,000 lives you'd have to wait, So, the Hindu joke is, oh, I didn't do it right this time. Next life. Next life. I'll do it next life. That's the classic Hindu way of not cleaning the streets and not cleaning toilets in India. Agle janam mein karenge. We'll do it in the next life. We'll do it in the next life. And that's unfortunately a nihilistic philosophy, right? Tantra came along and said, and Vedanta also, Advaita Vedanta, and said, no, you can do it this life. You can break that cycle now, right? That was the huge revolution of Shakti and Vedanta, those Advaita Vedanta and Shakti, which Aurobindo and Vivekananda all took later, right? Breaking the cycle. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, which came a little later than all those other ones. And it says that as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones, right? So there's a kind of journey to be taken. For certain is death for the born, and certain, this is Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, is birth for the dead. That means that if you're going to die, but you will be reborn. Don't know how, but somehow you'll be reborn. And then whatever state of being one remembers when he leaves his body, that state he will attain without fail. Ooh, that's the theory of karma. Okay. Now, how many of you have ever watched a person die? How many of you? Yes? Yes? You can see from the person the quality of their death, can't you? Right? If they are peaceful and balanced, they're giving love to everybody, they're kind, they're trying to deal with it in their own way, right? Have you seen that with some people? And then some people just don't want to die. They're clinging to life. They can't take it. And some people go into a hell in ICU and prodding and pushing and pulling and breathing. And how many ways there are we die, right? So what the ancients are saying here is that the quality of your consciousness at the moment of death determines your afterlife. What the Tantric is saying, what the Shakti is saying, what the Vedanta is saying is that wake up now. Because why wait till the moment of death, right? If you have that samatha now, when death comes, another stage in consciousness, I'm off to the next thing. I left you all my money, darlings, bye-bye. I give you all my love, bye-bye. I bless you all, bye-bye. I'm off, But to die like that means you need to work on it and prepare. You can't just die like that. If you've been a neurotic wreck for the whole of your life, holding on to all your money, how will you get there and then that point suddenly say, I am Satvik now. I love everybody. No way it's happening. The state of your mind is important. In Buddhism, they said that everything is karma, right? And in fact, karma, samsara comes from Buddhism, right? And Jainism. We get it from those two religions, So samsara, right, is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, right? That means we're stuck on a wheel of life. We go through this journey. We're born into a family, then we become educated, then we become householders, then we become, ascetics, or sometimes if we're lucky, we get born again into an ascetic life, or we're born again into a happy family. We keep going round and round and round and round until we achieve Buddha nature at some point and liberation comes. Nirvana occurs, moksha occurs, right? So, but this is the first time the Buddha said this, and Mahavir said this. They said that when you have good karma, you get that peaceful death. When you have bad karma, you get no peaceful death. You get horrible death, right? And the chances of a reincarnation by choice only occurs when you can free yourself of all of that, right? So that means, that's why, if you go to Tibetan monasteries and all, they'll say only the Dalai Lama and the senior lamas can choose who to reincarnate into. Everybody else just plops and arrives somebody else's family. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. I like the way they're all born within Tibet. Nobody just goes into the ether and comes out in Indianapolis, or Indiana or somewhere else. That would be nice if they could, right? Why can't a Buddhist monk be born in Indiana? I don't know. I don't get that. Why are they always born round the corner? um, and so we want to escape the cycle of death. And Mahavir, the founder of Jainism, said the same thing, that there's nothing mightier in the world than karma, right? This is beautiful. All powers, everything is crumpled. The Vedanta, the Jainism, Buddhism, Tantra all agree that it comes from ignorance. Why we create karma is because we are always wanting something and we don't know how to express it and how to fulfill it. So we're longing and creating desire, 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 desire. If I understand that I'm an immortal being who is just taking a trip in this body, I do only good karma so that I can continue the journey in a liberated way, right? So I go from ignorance, avidya, to vidya, Shri Vidya, knowledge, right? That's the whole principle of karma. So all this is happening in India between 1000 and 600 BC, okay? All of this is happening. Now we see a similar thing happening in Greece with Pythagoras, right? Around 600 BC. And it is said that Pythagoras spent many years in Egypt and then many years in India, right? So we don't know whether the knowledge was shared or whether it was completely came by Pythagoras, but he came up with this concept that even Socrates and all began to follow, which was called metempsychosis, right? Metempsychosis, which is the principle of rebirth. And he said that the word metempsychosis comes from the Greek meta, meaning change, and psyche, meaning soul. Metempsychosis refers to the idea that the soul can be reborn or reincarnated into different bodies after death, right? So Pythagoras, now animistic religions before said, yeah, all of us die and dissolve back into nature, and then nature from nature. The Egyptians did not believe that you actually recycle. The Egyptians believe you go to an underworld, and then if you're lucky, you get to travel to the Duat, the Sirius star belt, right? And you get to fly over there. But most ordinary people just live in the underworld with crocodiles and alligators. That was the world, right? A lot of ancients believe that you go into the afterlife as you are, but in a different form, right? A lot of believed, so they bury you with all your jewelry and your armor and everything, so that when you go to the afterlife, you have everything you need for that. In fact, the Chinese went so far as burying all your family and entourage with you. So they'll kill everybody and put you in the grave with you. So you'd all go to the other side together. So you're not alone when you go to the other side. The king gets to be with his whole family and all his servants. They actually killed all the servants because they wanted the servants to go and help serve him on the other side. It was a sad state, right? So, but this moment of Pythagoras changes everything, because it says that your essence, your spirit comes back, right? This is the beginning of that in the Greek philosophy. And so years later, right, we start moving to where we are today in metaphysics right now. Right? I'm going to talk about Western metaphysics a little bit. There was a philosopher called Spinoza, right? And Spinoza said that everything in nature, he was a Dutch philosopher of Jewish origin, and he was excommunicated from the Jewish church for believing this stuff, right? And he came forward and he took on Descartes and earlier philosophies of dualism. That means that, everything is mind and body are separate, the whole thing. And he said, no, we're just one substance. Everything is just one thing, consciousness, substance, whatever you want to call it. And he called that substance God or nature, right? And in fact, it went so far, but he said that it's not the God of Abraham that does participate, or the God of things. It's a law of nature that is everywhere all the time as consciousness in everything, right? And everything comes out of that consciousness and comes back into that consciousness. So just think about it this way. Today, the closest we have is Rupert Sheldrake's theory of the morphogenetic field, right? That everything is a field around us, right? It's like Atma and Brahman, right? The Brahman is the field, and the Atma comes out of that field and becomes a living being and then goes back into the field, right? It's that idea that everything, a blade of grass, a human being, a planet, comes out of this vast consciousness, lasts for a while, and then dissolves back into it. It's a continuous dance of the whole universe, right? This theory is called panpsychism today. And it's a huge theory going on in many universities around the world in philosophy. And it's the closest we have seen to Vedanta and that we have seen ever, right? It's the closest we have seen. And it's called panpsychism. So you can look it up. It's panpsychism. And Spinoza is kind of considered the founding father of it in a way because of his theory. And Einstein, when he was asked by a rabbi, do you believe in God? He says, yes, I believe in the God of Spinoza, right? So a lot of the quantum physics people really like this idea that there could be consciousness in everything in the universe, right? But it wasn't necessarily awareness like mental awareness of an animal. It was something much bigger. It was a law, a vibratory field, a field of consciousness, That was a beautiful idea. So I just want to show you a couple of other people that came along. And Rupert Sheldrake came up with this concept that there's a field around us when all human souls go into and then come back from. And it's like a field of consciousness. And he called it the morphic field or the morphogenetic field. And this field is all animals, all humans, behavior, culture is stored in some kind of Akashic record. And then you're able to bring it back down, right? So what does that mean for us in rebirth terms? That means that it doesn't mean that a soul goes and then a soul is born again into another body. It means that when we die, all our consciousness goes into a database of consciousness around the whole earth, around the whole field of consciousness. And we who are born bring down from that into us all the knowledge to be a human being, to be a dog, to be a cockroach, whatever you're going to be a blade of grass, to be a tree. It comes with all the blueprints, the code, everything genetically comes into it, and that consciousness comes into you and boom. And it's a brilliant theory. If you really look at it carefully, morphic resonance is the most intelligent theory I have seen in the last 20 years. Brilliant, right? Because it allows for reincarnation without soul, right? Of Buddha nature, Buddha mind in a way. It's like the mind continuously playing with us, right? Morphic resonance or morphogenetic fields, right? Those are what they call, right? Now, quantum physicists and all have been looking at this also, right? And two major neuroscience and quantum physics people have looked at this called Stuart Hamerhoff and Roger Penrose. And they came up with a theory about 10, 12 years ago called ORCH-OR, right? And ORCH-OR says that there is a thing called orchestrated objective reduction, ORCH-OR, theory of consciousness. According to this theory, consciousness arises from the quantum processes that take place in the microtubules of the brain, right? So I'll just explain it to you, right? So just imagine you got all these neurons firing away. At the base of every neuron is a synaptic thread or pathway. And below that is a tube that goes into the neocortex, into the brain and works. That tube is called a microtubule. It's almost like a quantum thread, like a string that connects your neurons to your field of consciousness. What they found with experimentation, and these are top level scientists at University of Arizona and other places in Oxford University in England, they found that at the point of death they saw, and they're trying to market even more now, the consciousness would go through the microtubules into a vast field of consciousness, like Rupert Sheldrake's morphic field. Right. So that means that all our consciousness, and in Indian philosophy, by the way, they say that when you die, if your consciousness goes out the top of your head, right, that is considered to be the highest objective. You actually return to the moksha, to mukti. Otherwise, you come out the eyes, you come out, and lo and behold, if you come out the asshole, because you're just going to be a fart in the world, But if you come out the top of your head, hallelujah. So if you go to a cremation ground in India, you know what the cremation guy does? He goes around cracking the skulls of every head so it come out the top of the head, And this is an Indian philosophy, big ancient Indian philosophy, that when you're burning, crack the skull, the jiva will come out of the skull top, right? So now Stuart Hammer often took the scientific version of it and said, guess what? As you die, all consciousness goes out through these microtubules into the field of a kind of noosphere, a sphere around the world, right? A sphere in space-time. It's not even in space-time, it's just there. And then from that, it comes back into the brain of the next baby, right? Fascinating, right? All very esoteric, isn't it? Yeah. So when we look at rebirth, we've come a long way since those early ideas, right? Come a long way, but we haven't come very far. We still don't know what happens after death. We really don't know. So the tantrics really came up with the best concept, I think, right? That all of this is Shakti, right? We are in the womb of the Divine Mother, yes? It's her game, it's her play, right? So there is the womb of the Divine Mother. We are in her egg, right? This is the womb of the Divine Mother. And Maha Maya, the mother, right? The first mother. So the mother of rebirth and the play of all life is the mother at the source, Maha Maya. She is Adi Shakti, the first mother, right? And from her comes all forms. Maha Maya is the illusory power from whose womb we come and who we return to. She creates the appearance and duality of separateness, the veil of ignorance, and prevents us from realizing our true nature as one with her. This veil is said to trap the individual jiva in the cycle of birth and rebirth until it is able to penetrate the Maya illusion and become one with everything, right? So just look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I'm going to come to this prayer in a second. This is the mantra we're going to do today. But so all of this is the mother's game. She is acting through us so that she can experience that game through us, right? And we, by waking up our consciousness, can return. Even in Vedanta, especially Ramakrishna's Vedanta, or Aurobindo and Vivekananda's Vedanta, we call it Vijnana Vedanta, Advait, Vijnana Advait Vedanta. All of this is Maya, right? All. A play of Spinoza's God, whatever you want to call it, playing. And so you have Brahman, the non-dual Shiva self, the mind behind the whole universe, and then it comes into action as Shakti, right? So whether it's in our body, whether it's in our heart, whether it's in other people, in the blade of grass, everywhere, it's coming alive. What she does is she waits for you to wake up so that she can see through your eyes her great creation. What a wonderful thesis, isn't it? They've taken that and put it in Vaishnavism also and Shaivism also, that Shiva does that, Vishnu does. No, it's the mother. The mother does it first. She makes us all so that we can see her and she sees us through herself, through us. What a wonderful idea. Isn't it a great idea? Right? So I'm going to teach you a mantra, which we've done before, but I'll teach it again today. But before I do that, I just wanted to lay that map out for you. It was a quick 20-minute map. I hope you don't mind. But just think about it, right? Where do you feel you stand on the rebirth idea and the reincarnation idea and what your mind says? One is the mental rebirth that Tara and I were talking about, that becoming aware all the time, partnership with higher self, conversation, right? But think about it metaphysically, philosophically. What happens to you after death? Or what happens to you in this life? when you're reborn? Or what happens to you when you become mentally immortal, but you're stuck in a physical body? What happens? Right? You know, the last few years of Ramana Maharshi's life and Ramakrishna's life, they didn't die old. Huh? They were in their late 50s when they died. I mean, they were as old as me. But they were living this samadhi life, right? In the complete samadhi all the time. Yet their body was decaying and dying. Throat cancer, he had other cancers. The body died. Yet they were in that state of aware consciousness right through to death, right? You know, yogis like Yogananda, they were giving a speech and then he drops dead. But by the way, if you notice, they're all in their 50s when they died, right? Vivekananda was 39, dropped dead, right? So those days, you know, not enough penicillin, not enough, you know, healthy living, nothing. They were just ready to die, right? But that was old age by then. 59 was old age back then. I would be dead. Man, think about that. Wow. Okay. So it starts with this. It goes, Sarva Mangala Mangalye, right? Sarva Mangala Mangalye, right? That means Mangal means auspicious, most wonderful, right? So you are the most wonderful of all the things wonderful, right? What a great way to start with the mother, right? Shive Sarvartha Sadike, you who complete Shiva. That means, like Tara was saying, she saw Shiva. In fact, the reason she saw Shakti on the right side was because Shakti is dominant in that position. Right? She is Tripura Sundari. She is the one that Shiva even worships. Right? At that point, she is Maha Shakti. This is this mother, right? Same mother. Shive Sarvartha Sadike. You actually complete Shiva. Without you, no Shiva. Even then. Sharanye Trambake Gauri. You, the three-eyed fair one, the luminous one, the three-eyed luminous. Gauri means luminous. You fulfill all our goals. Sharanye, make all our things, dreams come true. Narayani Namaste. Narayani is the name given to her. I will bow to you. Shristi Stiti Vinashanam. That means Shristi Stiti Vinashanam are creation, preservation, destruction. Right? So the three states of consciousness of the mother. Shakti Bhute Sanatani. O eternal one of power beyond all, you who are most powerful of all Shaktis. Gunashraye Gunamaye. That means all the characteristics and personalities I have, you know, lazy, tamasik, rajasik, sattvic, you are the all of them. You control all of them. Narayani Namastude. And Sharanagata Dinartha, which is that you are the last resort of all of us who need help. We come to you, we bow to you, we bend for you. Paritrana Parayane, for the pitiable and paining people who come to take refuge. That means all these people that are suffering, you are the one who holds them and looks after them. Sarvasyati Hare Devi, you remove everyone's trouble, O Devi. Narayani Namastude. I bow to you. Jaya Narayani Namastude, Jaya Narayani Namastude, Jaya Sarva Mangala Mangalye, Shive Sarvartha Sadike, Sharanye Trambyaku Gauri, Narayani Namastude. Shristi Stiti Vinashanam, Shakti Bhute Sanatani, Gunashraye Gunamaye, Narayani Namastude. Saranagata Dinartam Paritrana Parayane Sarvasyati Hare Devi Narayani Namastude. Narayani Namastude. Jaya Narayani Namastude. Jaya Narayani Namastude. Jaya Narayani Namastude. All right, brothers and sisters, it's been real. Shri Matri Namaha. Blessings. Thank you for staying with me. Bye bye.